is Wednesday night. It's December 7th, 2022. Can't believe we're in the final month of 2022, but here we are. I'm Tanner Lee, along with one of my co-hosts, Evan Webb, coming at you. We didn't know when we were going to record a podcast this week. We were waiting on some news to drop, and unfortunately, today is the day that the news we all, I think, saw coming but didn't want to believe it finally dropped. That is Purdue head football coach Jeff Brohm is no longer going to be the head football coach at Purdue University. He is leaving for his alma mater, Louisville, on what was reported a 6-year, $35 million deal. So the roads, it always seemed like they were going to lead to Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Yeah, it was something that, going back to 2018, Brohm had been the coach for 2 years. He turned him down, which was a miracle kind of even at the time. At the time, it was like, God, if he leaves now, like, we're back to square one. We had a little bit of success, but, there was no foundation whatsoever. Rondell Moore had an amazing season. We didn't have the season. It wasn't, we had some amazing moments, the Ohio State win. But we also had, there was some, we ended up going 6-7 that year, including a blowout loss to Auburn. I was like, God, just don't leave now. Like, you got to build more. And then he came back like, all right, cool. But then it was kind of like, okay, if he leaves, it's going to be for Louisville. And, we had some down years and then now some success. And then kind of going to the year, we thought, man, they're looking for a reason to get rid of Satterfield. And sure enough, the dam broke yesterday when it was announced that Satterfield was going to Cincy. So it's Wisconsin's fault.
On Monday.
Oh, Monday, yes. So it's Wisconsin's fault that this is all happening because they could have just hired Leonard and everything would have been fine.
Yeah, and if you go back to 2018, it was between the bucket game and the bowl game.
Yep.
Which he was contemplating going to Louisville, and that's when Purdue rose the money a little bit, and he stayed at Purdue. And, I was thinking last night to myself, even though last night I had a pretty good feeling he was going this time around, but I was thinking to myself, I was going through some pros and cons, just having a few crazy thoughts when I couldn't sleep at night. And then I recalled back in 2018, shortly after he decided to come back to Purdue, he was doing an interview with a Louisville radio station. And they asked him if it was hard for him to tell his dad that he wasn't going to Louisville. And he broke down emotionally. And I had forgotten about that till last night. Right when I remembered that, I'm like, yeah, he's going. I said, there's no chance he's telling them no twice.
Yeah, especially when you hear rumors that, his dad is really pulling at him to come home. And I can't blame him at all. That's the thing, I think, and hopefully a lot of Purdue fans have the same sentiment as I don't really blame him. It's not like he did what, he didn't really do like a Satterfield thing where he just got up and left, or, Bobby Petrino, or, some of these guys who just up and leave.
Tommy Tuberville, that was about the worst one I've ever heard of.
But, it's something that we all thought was coming eventually. I don't think, unless Purdue was going to pay him like top billing money, which obviously is not something that he's really worth at Purdue. To be fair, he's not like he's Nick Saban out here. But I don't know if there's really a whole lot of money that could have made him stay. Again, it's his family's obsessed with Louisville. He's from Louisville. It's the same thing if like the roles were reversed and, we had a coach that was coaching somewhere that was maybe kind of a sidestep job. It's like we'd be hoping he could come home, or even something that we'd all would want to do, whether it's in our own personal lives of, eventually we all kind of find our way back home. So I can't blame him at all.
Thad Mooney on Facebook says, in the immortal words of Michael Scott, nobody panic.
No, I'm not. Has it been 2018? Absolutely. But I think, kind of what we're going to talk about here is, he's left Purdue in such a better place than what he found. It was hard to make it really worse. But I feel a lot more confident now than I did had we had to do this dance in 2018.
Yeah, it's just the timing of it just sucks.
Yeah.
I know on the podcast we'd been getting asked by people if Jeff Brohm was going to be the coach of Purdue in 2023. And I was fairly confident because I'm like, I don't think Louisville's getting rid of Satterfield. But like you mentioned, didn't see Fickell going to Wisconsin, didn't see Cincinnati opening up, didn't see Cincinnati as a place where they would be even interested in Scott Satterfield. But here we are. I think that was a good jump for Satterfield. He wasn't liked down in Louisville by a lot of their fans. And Cincinnati's going to the Big 12 next year, and they've had a lot of success lately. So I think that was a good move by him to get out when he could. But right when we saw that news Monday morning, I'm like, oh, here we go again. And right then I kind of knew, Yeah, this Brohm Watch 2.0 is going to go by quicker. Well, at least we were hoping it would go by quicker than the last one, and it probably won't end up in Purdue's favor. And that's what we found out today when ESPN broke the news right around noon. But now is the interesting part really begins. What staff members is he going to be taking with him? His brother, Brian Brohm, who's the offensive coordinator for Purdue, was named the interim head coach for Purdue's bowl game, which we haven't even talked about that at all. Purdue's going to be playing the Citrus Bowl on January 2nd against Brian Kelly, former Notre Dame coach, and his LSU Tigers. Can't think the Citrus Bowl is probably really happy right now because Purdue's going to have an interim head coach, and who knows what the roster is going to look like. Who knows if guys will play in the bowl. Will Charlie Jones and Aiden O'Connell sit out? I think Aiden will play, but will Charlie sit out? I don't know. What guys are going to enter into the transfer portal from now till then? Purdue's rumored to have quite a few guys that are potentially going to jump in that portal, but you would think they're going to wait to see who the new head coach is going to be before they do that. And of those transfer guys or of the guys on the roster, who's Jeff Brohm going to try to take with him down to Louisville?
Yeah.
So a lot of unanswered questions right now to figure out in pretty short time.
Yeah, and it was, when you go back to 2016, even 2017, really, even 2018, Brohm brought a lot of guys from Western Kentucky in terms of players, and we were all kind of like, hey, great, these guys are upgrades for what we have currently, and that we may see the other side of that right now. Obviously they've got, they had on paper, probably one of the best recruiting classes committed Louisville-wise that they've had, maybe even ever, top 20 class. They had their 5-star running back decommit today, but, you'd think maybe he may not need to do that as much. I don't know, but there's some guys on this team. Obviously, I think some of it's going to happen. You expect it, but there's some guys that you hope and pray that some guys stay in the gold and black.
Oh, sure. Thinking off the top of my head, Devin Mockabee's one you want to make sure stays. Brady Allen's one you want to make sure stays.
He's
a lot of your younger guys.
Yeah, he's probably number one on my list.
A lot of your younger guys, even though there's Michael Limo right there, not as young, but it'll be interesting. And maybe there's some players on the team that weren't big fans of Jeff Brohm, and now are going to stay that were looking to leave. I saw some rumors. Message boards. So who knows? Take it for what's worth, there were some guys that potentially were going to leave if he stayed because some guys just weren't fans. Which you're going to have both sides of that. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And whoever Purdue gets to be their next head coach, maybe he brings some of his guys. You got to think he's got to bring a lot of his own staff, which I am going to pull something here from Golden Black from On3. If you're not a subscriber on there,
now's the time to do it.
Recommend doing so. It's $1, literally $1.
You're
not going to get a lot of better value than that. But let's see here if I can find it. Of course, now I'm not going to be able to find what I want.
It sounded like,
staffers, they said that they think that will take pretty much the entire offensive staff. So running backs coach Chris Barkley, tight end coach Ryan Wallace, wide receiver Garrick McKee, O-line coach Dale Williams, quarterback Brian Brohm, which that's the one I'm like, okay, if he's going, then why is he the interim head coach?
Right.
Then on defense, Ron English probably going. Not sure about David Elson, linebacker coach. Mark Hagan has been invited to go, but will he go? Not sure. If he stays, he'll probably call the defense in the bowl game if English leaves. And according to Tom Dienhart of GoldenBlack.com, he thinks Hagan probably should have been named the interim head coach.
I would agree. But he was the one out of any coach that I thought probably would be the most likely one to stay. He's not really – his name's been thrown out there of if Brohm leaves, should we name him head coach? But I feel like Hagan's not a guy who's really – he's just a guy who really wants to be a head coach. He's had his opportunities to do it, I'm sure. Even be he's never even been much of a sole defensive coordinator, at least if I'm not mistaken. Even down when he was at Texas, he was more of a positions coach.
An associate head coach.
Yeah, an associate head coach. So it's I feel like he maybe just loves to coach positions and recruit. He's from Indiana. Obviously Louisville's not far at all. As we know. But I think he's from Carmel, so he's an hour away right now at Purdue. So he's one I really hope doesn't leave on the staff, just because he's done a tremendous job recruiting on the defensive end for us.
Right. Right. So, and going back to Jeff Brohm, it's kind of crazy now to look back on it. And it went through my mind Saturday when we were at Lucas Oil. We were both lucky enough to attend the Big Ten Championship, which was a great. Oh, you're lucky you got one of those shirts. I went to try to get one at halftime. In my section, they were packed up already. So.
Oh yeah, I got it. We went to a convention center beforehand, and they had some there.
They had them before the game. They had them throughout the first quarter. I should have just grabbed one. I was like, oh, halftime, if I can get up there won't be much of a line, but they were already packed up. So, which was great atmosphere, very fun. Hopefully Purdue will get there again someday because that was a blast. The game was really fun for a half, and then some costly turnovers and just Michigan's overall talent rising to occasion came out in the second half. But it's crazy, with all that said, it's crazy to go back and think Jeff Brohm's first game as Purdue head coach was in Lucas Oil, and his last game as Purdue head coach was in Lucas Oil. So, I mean, he did what he set out to do when he took the job in 2016. That was bring some respect back to Purdue football. He definitely did that. He got the 4 bowl games out of 6 years, got him to a Big Ten championship game, ranked, even though it was for only a week, got him ranked for 1 week. That hadn't been done since 2007. Got him that week was last year in 2021. He upset 3 teams that were ranked in the top 3 at that time, upset some other ranked teams along the way. So it gave us some memories that will definitely last for a lifetime as a Purdue football fan, and one of the better coaches in Purdue football history. I mean, 6 years in nowadays in the landscape of college football, that's a pretty good amount of time to stay at one place. But like you said, I wish it could have held on for another year or 2, or really 6 more years, but I think we all knew when the Louisville job was coming up, he was going to go, and so he's back home. We'll see how he does at Louisville. He's probably going to have some more NIL money to work with. There's a lot of booze and pony money down there, and they are one of the remaining Adidas schools, so that's a factor. And really, if you look at this 12-team playoff that's going to expand, that the NCAA is going to expand to here in 2 years, Louisville might have an easier road to get there. Go 10-2, they probably put you in. Ray Davis has a name here on Facebook I have not seen mentioned as a possibility. Tommy Reese from Notre Dame. I can't stand Tommy Reese as the player, but he is a pretty good play caller at Notre Dame. So
that's a name didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, I gotta think Mike Bobinski's probably gonna go for an experienced head coach, even if it's somebody that's an up and coming head coach, just based on his track record at Georgia Tech and at Purdue and Xavier. I know Xavier doesn't have football, but he made some basketball hires while he was there. Throw out Josh Pastor at Georgia Tech. That was a whole different situation.
Right.
But so I don't know. There's been a lot of names thrown out there today. I think it's all just speculation. You got to think if Mike Bobinski really saw this coming, that he's had a list behind the scenes and put some feelers out there, maybe doing some back work. Because it sounds like, I mean, according to Golden Black, this almost happened last year. But Louisville's administration wouldn't pull the trigger on getting rid of Satterfield. Then the AD quit. They got a new AD now. So it almost happened last year after the season.
Yeah. I mean, as we kind of saw, it was over the summer. Brohm was down in Louisville for an event, and there was that whole thing that I didn't take. I mean, obviously now, hindsight, it was, it's like, oh, it was so obvious, but it's like, it's one of those things. Like, I mean, he's also he knows the media. He's a coach. He knows how to play the media. It's like, what's he gonna say down there to a place that he loves? It's like you're never gonna shut the door on an opportunity because you just never know what's gonna happen.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I said I can't fault him at all. What he's done for the program has been incredible. I mean, what we experienced, as students at the end of the Danny Hope era, as much as we liked Danny as a person, I know you got to work for him as a manager. To the debacle that was the Darrell Hazel era, like it really just that first season, like we were just hoping, God, if we won 4 games, would have been like, okay, this is something. Like we about half the total that Darrell Hazel got in 4 years, so we're cooking. And then we go to a bowl, and not only go to a bowl, we win a bowl, and it was fun. Ross State became packed again. You even think that first year, like the Ohio game, I wasn't able to go to it, but like, I mean, running trick plays and it was just exciting football to watch. You go to year 2, we beat Ohio State at home, beat them like a drum. Get Rondale Moore, you get guys like George Karlaftis, David Bell into the program, and have legit superstars, not just like stars like a Taylor Stubblefield or John Sanford, Purdue wise, but like legit college football stars that people are tuning into to watch every weekend. Yeah, I mean, he brought us to another level that we, hadn't experienced in a long time, and then obviously capped it off with, a Big Ten championship appearance, which was, what he said he was going to do, and he did it.
Yeah. A few other things that have kind of come out today that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I get it. Another thing that Gold and Black kind of released today was the Brohm family wasn't doing a very good job of keeping their attentions for where they wanted to be behind closed doors this year. It sounded like it wasn't Jeff himself, but family members were telling people around the community that they were going to be going to Louisville. So
I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was actually on their it was on their YouTube channel with Alan and Brian and Tom did a show this afternoon.
Okay.
So go check that out. I think they got the audio form up on the podcast wherever you're listening to this at. You can listen to that after you're done listening to us ramble. But they pretty much said, the tensions were out there, that family members were not hiding the fact that they wanted to go home. So
yeah,
it's a tough pill to swallow. Like you said, I'm not mad at him.
No.
I understand, but I am sad.
Yep.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried of how this is all going to play out, because we're in the era of the transfer portal, early signing periods on the 21st, 2 weeks from today. So you got to try to keep as many of these recruits of the recruiting class home if you can. And then you got to try not to lose too many guys in the transfer portal, or guys that are out there you got to convince to come. So
right.
So, logistically speaking, when do you think Purdue needs to try to have a coach? Because you don't want to rush a coaching search either. You want to make sure you get the right guy. But, I mean, when do you, in your mind, do they have to have a coach announced?
I think by the end of the weekend.
I do too.
I think you have to. I mean, again, if Babinski's not an idiot, and neither is if this was supposedly like a thing that could have happened last year, damn well that Babinski's had, like, even if it was just like things like, hey, what's going on? Like, if we lose them, we want your guy, or want to talk to your guy, like stuff like that. You got to think, and in today's age, like, these guys don't need to get on a plane and fly to West Lafayette to have an interview. I mean, you can at least have initial interviews, over the phone or over Zoom or whatever it is. Like, a lot of the stuff can be expedited pretty quickly. Just because of technology and where we're at. And plus everybody knows too. I mean, like, all these coaches know that this is just, and Babinski too, he's lived in this world for a long time. So I think it can move pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty quickly indeed. A lot of names getting floated out there right now. And like you said, I think by the end of the weekend, because I've seen some people say at this time next week, at the very latest, because you're just wasting time.
Well, isn't there something too? And I could have looked this up and I just haven't, but there was something about, like, because Purdue is like a public and state university, you have to have the job posted for like a certain amount of time before you can, like, internally, before you can have it available to outside hires, which I don't know if I believe that in the world of college athletics.
Yeah, I think it's got to be posted, but I'm not sure if, like, I know. Yeah, there's something to that. I'm too lazy to look into it too.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of candidates thrown out there. Friend of the podcast and the host of the Full Steam Ahead podcast, Adam Bartels. Hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but I am Adam. So he's saying a source is telling him that Pat Narduzzi, who's the coach at Pittsburgh, could be a legit candidate.
Huh.
What are your thoughts on that?
I haven't heard.
I did see that on the message boards today. Well, they lost Kenny Pickett, and their number one wideout went to USC. But they still, I think, did okay this year. I think they're bowling. But let's look up a little information about Pat. Why we're here.
The thing I think that we're producing a better spot now is, like, you can go out and hopefully get, like, if that's the route Vince wants to go in terms of, like, an experienced head coach, and you can go out and get a Power 5 guy. Whereas in 2016 you essentially had to go, MAC level type of coach, because there's just no way that, Purdue was probably the worst Big Ten job at that point in time, just from a pure results standpoint. Obviously, I think you can argue, fan support, resources, all that stuff that would make it a better job. But at the time, we were probably the losingest program in that 4-year stretch, probably by a pretty wide margin.
Pat Narduzzi, he's more of a defensive head coach. He does have some Big Ten experience. He was coordinator at Michigan State from 07 through 2014.
Okay.
He's been head coach at Pitt ever since 2015. He's 61-41 overall coaching record, 1-4 in bowl games. They did win the ACC championship last year. They also won their division last year and in 2018. He's making $3.2 million.
Okay.
So got to think Purdue could offer more than that.
Yeah, and that record I'll take. I think I would take that. Obviously, playing an ACC championship last year, and correct me, he would have played in the Big Ten championship too. Then or they would have coached it with Michigan State because they made a couple in that time too. Did they make the college football playoff in that time span too?
He would have been. I think they did in 15. He would have been at Pitt by then.
Okay.
But because I think they made the Big Ten championship in 13 and 15, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. Ray Davis wanted to know if any NFL assistants with college experience. I'm sure there are. I have not heard any NFL names yet, but I've heard some names that are currently college coaches or assistant coaches who have some NFL experience. Bill O'Brien's name's getting thrown around out there. That would be a splashy hire.
That would. They'll definitely, make the front page of ESPN most likely and all that stuff.
I got mixed feelings. He did very well at Penn State in those 2 short years he was there because that was a dumpster fire of all dumpster fires when he had to take over, and he did pretty well there. Did not do well with the Houston Texans. Was fine as the OC at New England. It's doing fine as the OC at Alabama, but how hard is that?
Right.
That is one thing about Saban, though.
The best NFL head coach, and you're the OC for the best college football head coach ever. So. Yeah.
Saban, though, does go out and try to get his guys jobs. So he's probably vouching for him. But not only is Bill O'Brien, he can really be a jerk. But a lot of head coaches probably can behind closed doors. We just got to see it on Hard Knocks. But my concern with him is if he had a lot of success right away, I think he jumps to a bigger job or the NFL.
Yeah.
So because NFL could come knocking for him again.
Oh yeah.
Boiler Max says no NFL coaches.
Yeah.
A few other names. We've seen Troy Calhoun's name pop up. He's an Air Force coach. He was interviewed back when Brohm got the job in 2016. That's the only reason I'm thinking people are connecting the dots there. We've seen some other names. We've seen Helton, who is the current, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, his first name. He's the current head coach at Western Kentucky. They do put up some points, but it's like, do we want to do that again?
Yeah.
He is a younger, up-and-coming head coach. What other names have we seen out there, Webby? I've seen a whole bunch.
We've seen a name that Purdue fans will know, Kevin Sumlin. He hasn't coached in a while. Obviously, he was at Texas A&M for a while and actually had a better record than I remember. I know he did okay very well. And then went to Arizona, it was kind of...
it was a dumpster fire.
It was a dumpster fire, which kind of gives me pause just because, granted, he's a Purdue guy. He knows what it takes to win at Purdue, which I'm not even sure if I 100% buy that whole thing of, getting one of our guys who know how to win. It's like, just get a good guy. I don't really care if they have ties or not. But...
Boiler Max kind of saying what I'm thinking here. Helton is a poor man's Jeff Brohm. We can't do better than another W.
That's kind of it. I feel like I think we can go kind of shoot higher for them than I don't even know what conference Western Kentucky's in anymore.
I think they're still in the Conference USA.
Conference USA. Okay, I think we can go look. I think we should be able to get a Power 5 guy and offer. Because again, I get it. Like we're not Michigan, we're not Ohio State, we're not Penn State. We're not Wisconsin, but it's like. The Big Ten is one of the best conferences to coach football in because especially now with the new TV deals, like that was kind of the one thing I was like, okay, well, if Brom's thinking about this logically, is Purdue the better job just because, of that, all that's going to be, that's going to be happening. But again, when it comes to family and home, like it's hard to, logic sometimes can go out the window, but it's like, that could be a very big draw for Purdue is like, hey, you're going to have a lot more resources and salary or not in salary, but like we're going to have a lot more resources available. And, when, college football, as we know, implodes and there's 2 conferences, like Purdue's going to be within that group because of the Big Ten.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of the national talking heads today were saying they think Purdue's a better job than Louisville, but
I think so too.
It was the factor of going home.
Yeah.
That we've talked about ad nauseum, really.
Yeah.
Looking at some other candidates here that Golden Black put out there.
The one that I do like is the Wake Forest head coach. That's one that has gives me a lot of
Yeah,
intrigue.
Dave Clawson. Yep.
Yep.
He's 55 years old. He's been at Wake Forest since 2014, but he's done a really good job there.
Yeah.
He would not be a bad one.
No, I mean, he's done well. And again, I think it's kind of a similar position to Purdue. Like, he's not getting, top tier talent to come to the game. Because again, if you're top tier talent going to the ACC, you're probably going to Clemson, maybe even North Carolina. I don't know. I mean, North Carolina's definitely a bigger brand than Wake Forest, but he's done a really good job. So he's definitely one that I when I read the list, he was one that was probably near the top.
Willie Fritz, Tulane head coach. What makes me pause about him? He's already 62 years old. I mean, did an unbelievable job at Tulane this year, going from 10 losses last year to 10 wins this year. That's incredible. I don't care where you coach at. Boiler Max says Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. No, geez, let me start off. Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois will eat off this roster like a buffet plate if this is a weak hire. No, Obinski's got to nail this hire on the head. I mean, we cannot afford to take steps backwards. Got to have a tough schedule as is next year, so got to keep the momentum going. Tyson Helton was Helton's first name.
Yes, yeah, Tyson.
He's 45. Western Kentucky's head coach.
I think he was the youngest coach that I was looking at.
Charles Huff from Marshall. He's 39.
Okay, I didn't even see his name. So
Joe Moorhead, Akron's head coach. He's 49. He was the backup plan supposedly if Brohm said no in 2016. He was Penn State's offensive coordinator at the time, but since then he got fired at Mississippi State. Now he's at Akron. I don't know. I don't think that would ignite the fan base too much. Matt Campbell, Iowa State, 43, real hot name a couple years ago. Has kind of faded off a little bit. I think he's got a big buyout, though.
That's good.
Chris Creighton, they mentioned 53 from Eastern Michigan. I would not be thrilled with that. Mike Elko, Duke head coach, 45. He's done fine at Duke, but once again, we talked about Bill O'Brien. Dan Mullen's an interesting one that's been, I've heard, kind of named out there, but he's an ESPN analyst now. Formerly was with Mississippi State, then Florida. He didn't do a very good job recruiting in Florida, though. And if you can't recruit at Florida, how are you going to recruit at West Lafayette?
Yeah.
And then Garrett Riley's been a hot commodity. He's the office coordinator at TCU. He's only 33 years old.
Oh, wow.
He's really young, but I know he's a lot of people's kind of number one on their wish list. Which speaking of, Thad Mooney just responded. How about Riley from TCU? Keeps the offensive guys on the roster and the recruits interested with his offensive scheme. I mean, if they could land him, he'd be an impressive one. He doesn't have any head coaching experience. He is young, so he could definitely use this job to propel himself somewhere else. But I guess you worry about that when the time comes. That means you've done pretty well.
I thought I saw someone say that Campbell's buyout was $9 million, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to validate.
At one time, it was pretty darn high, but that's when NFL teams were kind of sniffing around and some other bigger jobs. I don't know who I want, Webby. Jamarcus Shepard's another one that it seems like the players.
That's
really
one.
want.
Yeah. Our buddy Andrew, who couldn't join us tonight, he kind of threw that out there like the other day, and I was like, at first I was like, whatever. Then I was like, actually, like I've talked myself into like him might be my number one choice right now. I know it's not the. I don't know if it'd be the smartest hire, just from like, again, he's never been a full-time offensive coordinator. He's never been a head coach. But it's like, I mean, obviously he knows Purdue. He knows the recruiting landscape. He's from Indiana. Like, he's from Fort Wayne. So, like, he's obviously got those connections. Like, people love him. He's a high-energy guy. Like, he's definitely a guy who could win a locker room over. And, but again, it's all about, like, I don't know how his X's and O's are. But I think he'd be fun.
Yeah. No, he would bring the juice. The players, that's who they seem to want. The last time I've seen a hire happen like that was Notre Dame. I think the players wanted Freeman, so their AD's like, I don't want player backlash, so I'm going with Marcus Freeman. 8-4 season wasn't bad for them, especially with the way it started. But it'll be interesting. I hope the next few days we start hearing of guys that they've kind of locked in on or trying to get interviews with and whatnot, because coaching searches can be fun, but they're also extremely stressful. And this is a unique situation for you and I as younger Purdue fans. We've never been in this position where a coach leaves Purdue willingly to go to a different job. It's either they retire, they get fired, they resign, or get asked to resign.
Yeah.
So This is a rare new territory for us.
Yeah.
Can't say I like it, but I guess it in some ways it beats the alternate of having awful seasons and having your coach fired. So.
Yeah, that is true.
Because this will be let's see here, the 5th Purdue football coaching hire that we remember. We didn't remember Coletta.
Yeah.
We were alive for him. We don't remember him. Our football memories start with Joe Tiller and then
Right.
Danny Hope, Daryl Hazel, Jeff Brohm. And we've been lucky to only have 2 basketball coaches, which
Right.
is still crazy. So hopefully it stays that way for a long, long time. Which, speaking of which, give us a basketball score update. We are recording this while the Hofstra game is going on because
we don't have
Big Ten-
BTN Plus. So
Yeah,
we're not
BTN
actually
Plus is a
we're too cheap to pay for it. As of right now, at 7:39 on my ESPN app, Purdue's up 47-31 with 47-33. Sorry, I just jumped ahead like 20 seconds with 1:50 to go. Looks like leading scorers right now are Zach Edey, no shocker, with 13 points. Braden Smith has 8, 2 for 2 from 3. Morton has 6, 2 of 2 from 3. Coffin has 4. Newman has 6. Lawyer has 2. He's having a rough shooting night, 0 for 4 from 3. And Caleb First is 8, 0 of 2 from 3.
pretty good lead. High scoring half. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But
and Palm defense.
Yeah, going back to the coaching search, we'll talk Purdue basketball on another pod. I'm sure we'll end up doing another pod maybe either later this weekend or next week. But this one's pretty much just focused on the news that came out today of Jeff Brohm leaving Purdue and going to Louisville and where Purdue goes next. You got
He already has a double-double.
Of course he does. Of course he does. Of course he does. Expect nothing less. Keep the headband going. So with this coaching search, you got to think Bobinski's probably going to go offensive mind, right?
I think that's the way you have to go nowadays. Like, unless I don't know, unless I just don't see us. We're not in Wisconsin. We're not in Iowa where it's like that's like our bread and butter. Like I feel like with Purdue, what we've seen, just in our lifetime with Jeff Brohm and Joe Tiller, like we won with offense, creative offense. We're not gonna unless we can get a guy who can flip the narrative. Like we're not getting the guys up front that can allow us to be a ground and pound, just absolutely, take the air out of the ball type of offense. Like we've got to get creative. We've got to, be. I think it's also too just with the way that, things are nowadays. Like you got to have an exciting product on the field to bring people into the stands. And I think that's kind of the way you've got to go.
Right. And that's one thing you said bringing people in the stands kind of made a light bulb go off in my head. That's one thing Purdue can pitch too. They are doing renovations to Ross-Ade Stadium.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things going for us.
They can pitch that to a head coach. And of course you got the Boilermaker Alliance with the NIL. I mean, it's not, Columbus, Ohio doesn't have the resources Columbus, Ohio does, but it's better than a lot of places have. So, because one name that's intriguing to me that we didn't mention when we were rattling off candidates is Jim Leonard at Wisconsin, because he made it known last night that he's not going to stay on Luke Fickell's staff. So maybe we could hire Leonard as long as he gets a good OC with him.
Yeah, that's definitely name. I mean, he may kick the tires on for sure. I mean, he's out there. I mean, he's had some proven success. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of these guys are going back to Jamarcus Shepard. Was like, if he can get the right guys around him, I think that's what really helps. I mean, we kind of saw it with our friends down south with Tom Allen. Like, a couple of years ago, they were light years ahead of Purdue, it felt like, but it was because he had really good coordinators. And then when they left, you kind of saw what happens when you don't have good coordinators.
A big time Boiler says yes to Jim, so got a fan there. And Jim Leonard. Boiler Max has 2 questions. We'll hit them both here. Is Brian Brohm interim an addition or an awkward/unfortunate filler? I think it's the latter.
I think it's an unfortunate filler, which
at first when it was announced, I was like, okay, maybe he's not following Jeff. But then Louisville sites reporting that he is following Jeff. So it's like, this is weird. Like, this is just really bizarre.
I mean, I hope this isn't the case, but it's like, I hope it's just not a chance for to have, again, a guy there, another couple weeks of being able to talk to these guys about maybe forcing them into joining them in Louisville.
Like if you're Babinski's got to be smarter than that, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you gotta, I don't know.
I know that you want to be competitive in this bowl game, but right now I could care less about Citrus Bowl.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be ugly anyway, so I'm not as excited as I was when it was announced on Sunday.
No.
So, and he also asked a good question here. Where would we rank the Purdue coaching job nationally?
Whew. I'm trying to think what jobs are open right now.
Well, that's the thing. Right now, Purdue's probably the number one
Probably
job
the best
open.
job, yeah. Now, when you had Nebraska and Wisconsin open, obviously, I think we were probably behind those jobs just
Right.
because of Nebraska, especially just because of you got the resources there that
Right.
can be stupid. But I think, yeah, just as of right now, I mean, obviously things can change in the next. I mean, it could change tomorrow in terms of like people getting let go or taking other jobs. I think it's got to be the best one available right now, which is again why you got to act quick because I mean something could happen tomorrow, as we kind of already said. We missed the boat on Coach Prime coming to Purdue, so.
Yeah, and Purdue's a better job than Colorado. Big Ten's better conference than the Pac-12, and Colorado had to change some stuff as long as they're with their transfer guidelines with academics just to make Prime work. But yeah, good for them. It's going to probably be amazing, or it's going to be awful, but it's going to be fun to watch. Other jobs I see: Auburn's filled, Wisconsin's filled, Colorado's filled, Nebraska's filled, Arizona State's filled, Charlotte, USF, Georgia Tech. Liberty.
Which I would still rank Purdue against a lot of those jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of them, but like obviously I've put Purdue had it happen.
Quite a few of them. And the Big Ten and the Big Ten money really helps.
Yeah, I think what's going on with the Big Ten and Babinski and what we've got going on in terms of renovation and all that. I think that can be, key pieces in the sell to whoever, they're trying to interview.
Stanford's still open, but I think Purdue's a better job than that. That's a tough place to recruit at.
Yeah.
Cincinnati just filled, of course. I still think Purdue's a better job than Cincinnati, even though they made the playoff last year. I do. I think Fickle just did wonders there. Even though every coach that's been there has done a pretty good job. Brian Kelly, Butch Jones, Mark D'Antonio, Brian Kelly, Butch Jones, Tommy Tuberville. They've all done pretty well there. Yeah, as of right now, on December 7th, I think Purdue's the best job available. UNLV's open, but Purdue's a better job than that. I can guarantee you that. UAB's open. Yeah. Good question, though. The Big Time Boiler says, apparently Jeff wanted Brian to come now, but Brian said no. Apparently Brian may want to break off and call plays.
I mean, he's got to eventually. If he does have the aspirations of being a head coach on his own, like he's going to have to eventually. I mean, he can't live. Yep. I know the Brohm and Co. is kind of a family affair, and I know that obviously rubs people the wrong way at Purdue, which I get.
Supposedly Greg Brohm never even fully lived.
Yeah, he never even fully moved to Lafayette. It's like if that doesn't tell you anything, then my God. Which I know Jeff still had a house on there, which I mean, I'm not surprised. Just given
that doesn't surprise me, but I mean,
he's making millions of dollars. But yeah, what did Greg Brohm do? I don't even know what he did.
I think he was the football operations guy. I think,
okay.
But he was on the sideline during games, got paid a ton of money. Of all the Brohms, he was my least favorite. So
yeah.
That's and I don't even know the guy, so maybe that's not fair for me to say. I don't know any of the Brohms personally, but
but I feel like Brian's got a venture. I mean, why not now? I don't know. I mean, unless he just really wants to go back to Louisville too. Like, I mean, I get it. I mean, I 100% get it. If I was in their position and I got a chance to coach at Purdue, I would 100%.
He was the best player. I mean, he was a better player at Louisville than he and I think Michael Bush was his name. Those were some really good teams. I mean, he was a better player than Jeff was. But if you have the last name Brohm, you can't do wrong in Louisville. They're going to get treated like kings down there.
They're going to have a long leash.
But it'll be interesting to see if things don't go good. It'll be interesting to watch. But I know Brian tried to get the Kentucky OC job 2 years ago, but didn't get it. So Big Time Boiler also asked, where do we think Purdue ranks in the Big Ten as far as jobs? So 14 jobs out there. Where do you rank Purdue, Webby?
Jeez, it's tough.
Or let me just I'll go school by school. You tell me if it's better. Well, we'll say we're not going to do Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State.
I think at best we are sixth, maybe. I mean, you think Ohio State, Michigan, top two, depending on how you look at it. Penn State's better.
Yep.
I think Nebraska's a better job just because of resources.
Wisconsin's
better, so I think that's about where we can start having the conversation.
It starts getting close when you get Iowa in there. Michigan State, they've got a lot of money. Of course,
Yeah.
they shielded out to Mel Tucker. I think Purdue's a better job than Minnesota. Which Minnesota, I saw their tweet today bragging that PJ. Whatever.
Yeah, which I mean, I kind of sent it to our group chat. I was like, the fact that PJ Fleck lasted longer at Minnesota than Brohm did at Purdue is shocking. It's not a detriment to Brohm. I just thought PJ was like going to have a good couple of years and bolt somewhere better.
Do you think Purdue's a better job than Illinois?
Yes.
I do too. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got the.
I think Purdue has better fan support than Illinois.
I 100% agree. Purdue has better fan support, but I think Illinois may have the backdoor deals better. They do a better job with that than Purdue would ever probably do.
Their brand's a little bigger.
Yeah, the brand's a little bit bigger. It's probably if you may give a nod to Illinois on that.
So I guess at worst, we're thinking Purdue's 8 or 9 at worst.
Yeah.
So anywhere from 6 to, I would say 6 to 8, right in that mix.
Yeah, obviously better than Indiana, better than Rutgers, better than Northwestern.
Yep. Better than Maryland.
Better than Maryland. Yeah, but then
that's where you got your Illinois and Minnesota.
Michigan State's, Minnesota, Iowa. I mean,
Iowa's just it's been Ferentz's job for so long. I mean, but once again, that's a whole state.
Yep.
But it's a really good question. Good question because it's not easy. It's not an easy job. But the Big Ten is one of the premier conferences. Is not right there with the SEC. So that always helps. But any other thoughts on the news from today? Coaching candidates, just anything related to.
I mean, kind of what you said already. I mean, like I've had this thought really since probably week 3 or 4 of the season when Louisville was struggling out the gate. There was some I think it was before even the Virginia game. There was if they lost that game, he was gone. Then they win and they end up kind of having a decent little season. And then I remember even talking to my dad earlier in the season. I was like, I think Brohm's gone after this year, and he was like, oh, there's no way. I'm like, I don't think it matters. Like our logic that we're applying to the situation doesn't matter. I mean, when you're talking about what Louisville means to him and his family, he's a big family guy, which is you credit it's obviously very admirable. I just think you can't apply logic to that situation when it comes to him just wanting to be home, which I think is something we can all relate to. So I kind of then it was kind of like, okay, maybe he might stick around after Louisville was turning around. I was like, man, can they really force out this guy after he's winning this type of stuff? And then they lose to Kentucky. I was like, okay, there's maybe a chance for them. But then he just I think they not necessarily the athletic department. I think the boosters and maybe fans just gave Satterfield made his life a living hell. I don't blame him for wanting to leave. It's kind of I actually just heard I was trying for work. I was listening to the Boyle Sports podcast and they mentioned that people talk about Louisville's just a mess. It's a mess basketball wise right now. It's a mess kind of football wise. But to Brohm, that's his mess. It's kind of like our family. Our families might seem crazy to an outsider, but it's like, hey, that's our family. That's our crazy. And it's like no one's better suited than someone who knows it. So. It sucks when the announcement finally came. Even though we knew it was coming, just the signs were there. When there was a lot of smoke, but when it actually was announced, it was like, damn, it was still a gut punch. So it finally happened. Part of me is kind of glad too, because we can finally just stop talking about this stuff every off season. Or I know back in 2019, 2020, we weren't talking about it because we weren't doing well. But yeah, just looking back, a lot of fun times. Just the fact that it's so much fun to be in a packed Ross 8 again. It's what I remember growing up with. What we remember growing up as kids, packed Ross 8s, which we didn't have as students, unfortunately.
Not even close.
I remember and I think about the students now or who have been there since Brohm. Okay, we're not winning 8-9 games every year, but I remember in school talking to people they weren't even going to the games at all. They were going to tailgate or party before, but and then I wonder are those people even fans today? Because you never. Obviously for us, we grew up with this. This is
it's what we do.
It's a life sentence for us. But those people who weren't Purdue fans until they got to Purdue, I I wonder, like with basketball and football, it's like, did they even, follow it as heavily when they graduated? Because why? I mean, we sucked. Why would you?
Right.
Maybe they got kind of sucked back in when, basketball's doing a lot better and all that. But it's like, for a lot of these students, the fandom's built while they're in school. And I'm just jealous of a lot of these kids now who got to experience, maybe these seniors who got to experience 2 back-to-back 8-win seasons to end their college career while we were watching us get blown out or lose to Northern Illinois.
Now, will you root for Louisville to do well, or no?
Probably not. I mean, I think I'm just like I have no hard feelings. I saw like when I saw the running back decommit, I was like, yeah, that's funny. Now I will say I'll cheer for them next year because Brohm returns to Lucas Oil next year. They play Indiana at Lucas Oil next year.
Play the next 3 years. I see.
Really?
Got a little. I think it's a neutral home and home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is a job where he's going to be there for, assuming he doesn't just absolutely tank. I don't think he will. Yeah. I think we'll see a whole new kind of Jeff Brohm now that he's where he wants to be. I think he'll just absolutely let loose in that regard. Plus, again, we talked about he's got the NIL funding behind him. He may get a little may get some better classes than he got at Purdue. But this could be a job he's there for another 10 years, and then he decides to hang it up. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to actively root against him, but I'm not going to say I'm not going to feel bad for him if they.
I don't want to see him make the playoff.
Yeah, that'd make you a little
sick.
Yeah, make your bowl games is fine, but if they make the playoffs, that's where it's going to really suck.
Maybe we'll meet him in a bowl game down the road. Never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah.
Boiler Max says he ranks Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and then Purdue 7th.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yep. So, no, I thought you hit it pretty well there. You shared a lot of the same thoughts I have. I mean, I didn't want to see him go, but I understand it, and now I'm just more concerned of getting the next hire right.
Right, because I mean, again, it'd be very easy to take a step back and get into that. At worst, I'd want to be Danny Hope again, where we're fighting for 5-6 weeks. But obviously, you want to sustain this success. And
I like these 8-win seasons.
They're really fun.
Seasons are fun.
Yeah. That's really like when it comes to Purdue, like that's what's so fun about being a Purdue fan is like we don't have the expectations of like an Ohio State fan. It's like where you lose one game, it's like, oh my god, season was a total waste. It was
or
like
Notre Dame fans.
It's like I was like, are you kidding me? Like if we won 11 games, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. Like like I didn't know what to do with myself last year. I was like, we just won the same amount of games in one season as we did the entire time Darrell Hazel was on campus, and like it was just absolutely wild. So it's like that's where it's fun. 8-9 wins is awesome. You have the chance to, maybe pull an upset on some of the big boys and ruin their season. Is always fun. Keep the bucket, keep the cannon, and West Lafayette. Get Notre Dame back on the schedule. Maybe compete with them. As we remember. But I'm looking forward. I mean, obviously, I'd like to get to that. Obviously, I'd love to get to that. That status of competing for which I mean. 12-team playoff, we can definitely do it. There could be those years where we have a chance. If you have a good showing in the Big Ten, win 10 games. Not that saying we've ever done that, but you never know. We could get there. Whereas before it was impossible for Purdue to make a college football playoff.
Could you imagine if we would have won Saturday and then the Satterfield stuff goes down Monday and all this circus is going on when we're trying to prepare to go to Pasadena and play in the Rose Bowl?
Oh my gosh, that would God.
That'd be pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. That would really suck.
I was thinking about that today. I'm like, wow, maybe a good thing we didn't win Saturday.
Yeah, because, oh, man, that would have been, like, talk about.
Because I honestly don't think that would – I don't even think that would have mattered for him to say no.
That wouldn't have mattered at all, I don't think. I think, he did what he came to do. Like, it's not like we were playing for the playoff. And like that is like it's just another bowl game. I mean, obviously it's, the biggest bowl game probably, out there still just by name.
Yep.
But I think, that would have been like the highest of highs to just like crash and burn.
Because he really would have said, well, what do you want me to do? I'm leaving you with a Big Ten championship, like the championship.
Yeah.
So
like
it would have been even more of a mic drop
from
moment.
The bottom to
now we're here.
The top. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seemed like the inevitable was coming, and it was a mic drop moment for Jeff Brohm to leave and a clean break for both sides. And Bobensky, we trust, man. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. So, but while you're on the internet this week and on social media and keeping up with the latest of the coaching search, you're going to get hungry. Your appetite's got to get up there.
You are.
That's when you got to call Mad Mushroom, who's not going to leave you for Louisville. They are not. They're not going to leave you for Louisville. They've been the heart of West Lafayette for many years, and they're going to be for many years to come. And right now you can order the December pizza of the month, brand new pizza of the month for the month of December. That's the Breakfast Bomb. All you breakfast lovers out there who love pizza, this is the best of both worlds. It's their signature sausage, gravy, onions, green peppers, diced potatoes, bacon, cheddar, and mozzarella cheeses served with a side of hot sauce. Starting at just $14. Get 2 of those, get 1 of those and a large cheese stick. Put your order over $20. Use discount code BREAK5 when ordering online. That's all caps BREAK5. I'll get you $5 off any order over $20. Once again, that's Mad Mushroom. Feed your head. And that's not the only sponsor of the podcast.
I was actually just thinking, sorry, side tangent. I'm not sure if they're doing it. I don't think they would do it today. It'd be kind of awkward if they did. But, whenever at some point they bring the football team out on the court at Mackey, like during halftime or something like obviously they'll have the bucket and they'll probably have the Big Ten West trophy with them.
Right.
But do they do that? Well, we still don't have a coach. Like, what are they
going to they're going to wait until a coach gets hired because they always bring the coach out anyways. I remember when Darryl Hazel got hired. He came out and waved to everybody at the Michigan State game and then didn't say anything. Went back to his seat. It's like, oh, that was anticlimactic. Should have known right then.
Yes, that was a sign.
Fire up the furnace, Daryl. Fire it up.
Another sponsor who does not make Louisville shirts, as far as we know, and they probably never will at this point.
Good.
That is the Shop. The Shop, Burrow Breakdown brought to you by the Shop. Shop has been making or bringing sports and hometown apparel to fans since 2011. From their humble beginnings in garages and basements, you can find them at 2 retail stores and online. They make comfortable shirts. It makes everybody happy. The Shop is located in Carmel and Indianapolis, as well as online at theshopindy.com. They make the best shirts, period. I'm unfortunately not wearing one today. I'm wearing one that I bought at the Big Ten Championship. This is the only time that's going to happen. Next time you're shopping, use online code BREAKDOWN for 20% off. Christmas is right here. It's December 7th, which is crazy. So get those orders in. Get the use promo code BREAKDOWN. Get a nice little discount for the Christmas season. I'm sure the Let's Play Football shirt is heavily discounted now on their website. I have not checked, but it probably will be on sale on clearance very shortly if you still want to get one of those shirts. But they're super comfortable shirts. They fit great. I mean, not only that, they have drinkware, hats, sweatshirts, Pacers, Colts, Hoosiers, Bulldogs, Cardinals, all that stuff. Anything Indiana related, best stuff.
2 more things here. Boiler Max said, what is an NCAA rule that is fair to athletes but would deter coaches from poaching athletes while the school that they're leaving is looking for a new coach?
What is an NCAA rule that is fair to athletes but would deter coaches from poaching athletes?
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is to that. It seems like something definitely needs to be in place, but and he's talking about this Indy Star article that was referencing a Purdue recruits getting annoyed by Brohm's home visits the last few days before taking the Louisville job, and I know that I was talking to my mom earlier on the phone today that annoyed her, but I'm like, Mom, I don't know what you do as a coach because technically you're still contracted, employed. You're still a Purdue employee.
Yeah.
I guess he could have just sent the rest of his staff out and he didn't have to go on visits, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I saw that too, and I was like, I mean, I get it. Like, I'd be annoyed too, but it's also like, I mean, someone on Twitter probably gave a great point. It's like, if you're, you're working, if your current employer, if you were decided to look for another job and you were interviewing, like, you're still going to go to work and do what you have to do for your current job because that's what you're employed to do. Like, obviously, yes, you could quit, but then, like, again, that's not smart business sense on any, like, no one would do that unless you're just so well off that you don't need to work and you can just look for jobs. But, like, obviously that includes Jeff Brohm, who's made a good living working at Purdue. But yeah, it's like, I get it. I mean, it did suck to see, I know he was in Indianapolis yesterday with doing a couple in-home visits and seeing guys like, okay, well, maybe this is, but I mean, I get it. I mean, I get both sides of the argument. It's a tough tightrope to walk.
It is. Well,
good questions and good comments for sure.
No, really good. Thanks to everybody who contributed during tonight's show. Made it fun. Anytime you guys are watching or listening, please send us questions, comment along during the show. We really appreciate that. Hit that like button, that follow button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, at Boiler Break Pod on all those. And we're on all of the major podcast platforms. So subscribe there, give us a rating, give us a review. We really appreciate it. And maybe we'll be back this weekend. Maybe we'll have some positive coaching news, or whenever Purdue announces a coach, look for us to fire up the good old podcast machine shortly after that. So with that said, like always, boiler up, hammer down.
Boiler up.